What's going on? This is DJ HApa here at Scratch DJ Academy in New York City, and today we're going to give you the intro to the world of CDJs. So I know a lot of people out there are very familiar with turntables, but you may not be so familiar with the CDJ. Today I'm going to cover the basics, and this is applicable to a CDJ 850, a 900. Today we're going to use a 2000, but all the stuff I'm showing you will also work for a 2000 Nexus. So I want to dive in, I want to talk about some of the different modes and give you the full overview. You're also starting to see a lot more CDJs in nightclubs across the world. So I travel a lot as a DJ, and oftentimes I'll come into a club situation and they don't have turntables, they have these CDJs. So it's really important to familiarize yourself with this so that as a DJ, you can play on virtually anything. All of the functions are very, very similar to the way that they do work on a turntable, but there are some key things that are a little bit different, and that's what I want to go over today. First and foremost, this is called the CDJ because it actually uses a CD. So you can take a CD, throw it into the slot right here, and on the actual player it's called disc. So I select disc, and right here I've got all of my different tracks that are on this disc. Find my actual track I want, select it, and now I can play. The other modes that we have are you can use a USB, so we've got one right here. We've got a USB. Go ahead and stick it in the USB slot up top. It'll blink red. When it's ready to go, the red light will stop blinking, and now I can select USB. So I've got that. I also have the ability to use an SD card. The last mode up here, which is actually on top, is called link. So if I have an Ethernet cable, which this actually ships with one, I can plug in the CDJs to each other so that they can be linked together. So they can actually talk to each other. So what I have on this USB key, I can pull up on this side by hitting link. So I hit link, find my USB, and all of my tracks show up. So there's a couple of main uses and reasons why you would be using a CDJ. If you're outdoors, typically a CDJ is going to perform better than a turntable with all of the elements. So wind, rain, sun even, not worried about your record melting on the turntable. A CDJ would probably be your best friend in those cases. Same thing with like the wind and dust and sand. You don't have to worry about that as much on a CDJ. So every time I like to explain gear, I want to talk about not necessarily the differences, but the similarities first. So I want to look at a turntable compared to the CDJ. So first things first, one of the biggest things on a turntable is this on and off power switch. My actual power on the CDJ would be right here. So this is my power button for my CDJ. Go ahead and turn it on and everything boots up. Now obviously there's a lot more electronics in this than there are in this. One of the big differences is I don't have a needle, I don't have a tone arm, none of that stuff is here on the CDJ. Similarities though. This is my pitch control, which you may be already familiar with. So this actually changes the pitch. It, in effect, speeds up or slows down the platter. Our pitch control here is right here. Now the nice thing about this pitch is I actually have a dial or a readout on the LED screen that'll tell me exactly where my pitch is at. So, you know, I can also change the parameter. That's right here. So I can actually change whether this is plus or minus 6, plus or minus 10, or plus or minus 16. And I can actually make this wide as well, which wide is actually plus or minus 100%. So I can slow this thing down all the way to 100%. Start and stop. I've got this on my turntable, start and stop. On this, it's this play button. So this play and pause button right here that's flashing green. That's my play and pause. Obviously you can see there's a ton of other buttons that are not on the turntable, so I want to go over those now. All right, so a few things we want to look at. I'm going to pull up a track, so I'm going to select what I want to be looking at. So whether it's the USB, the SD card, or the CD, wherever the music is that you're looking for, make sure you select that. So today I'm going to look at this USB. I'm going to find my song. I hit enter on this knob, so I use this to scroll and then push in for enter. Pull up my track. It's now here on the display, so I can see it. I actually have the ability to play in a couple of different modes. So one mode is vinyl mode, which is right here. I can also play in CDJ mode. So let me show you the difference between these. So in vinyl mode, this platter works the same as it would on an actual platter of a turntable. If I'm in CDJ mode, this won't work. So what this does is it slows it down or speeds it up. So this is just your tapping and pushing. It all works the same now. So the side and the top are the exact same. So in vinyl mode, there's two different things. The top works the same way as it would on a record. The side of the platter is my tapping and pushing. This is one of the things that takes some getting used to, is that sort of touch on a CDJ. So when you move from a turntable to a CDJ, there are a few little differences in terms of the touch, and that is one of them. So if you're a guy who's manually beat matching on these CDJs, you would have to get the hang of this tapping and pushing on the side of it, as opposed to using like the top or the side. This would be the difference between vinyl and CDJ mode. The other difference is what you're starting to hear is when I hit pause in CDJ mode, this creates a stutter. So you may want to use that as like an effect. It's kind of an interesting effect that sometimes guys will use. If I hit pause in vinyl mode, it'll just stop. It'll stay where it's at, so it won't have that stutter effect. So there's another button right above the play pause, which is another important button called the cue. So what the cue will do is wherever you decide to stop. So let me find a point. Let me grab this right here. You can also see it. You can see where it's at. I'm going to hit pause and then cue, and now my cue is actually set to that mark right there. So a little orange mark right there. That's my cue. So and now if this is playing and I hit cue, it'll go back to that same spot. So there's a couple of ways to skip through the track. So one way is by using these search buttons, and this is more traditional. I mean, you're used to doing this on a CD player. Like even on your old school stereo that you had the ability to do that. Or I can actually, if it's paused, I can use my needle search. Now, it says needle lock because it won't let me jump when it's playing, because that would sound crazy if you started jumping around while it was playing. So for your protection, it sort of locks it up. So another way of thinking about the needle search is that you're scrubbing the track. So I can actually, notice I can also play from here. So if I hold my finger there, I'm playing it. And then now, if I want to pick it up from there, I need to make sure I hit play on the play button. On a CDJ 2000, you can actually adjust the break and the start. So we're going to cover now the vinyl speed adjust. These are these two knobs right here. So I've got my touch break, which is how it stops, and then my release start, which is how the record starts when you hit play. And what that will do is, let me show you. It's probably easier to show you than to tell you. So let's start with the release. The release right now is set to release right on time. So if I go to the beginning of the song, starts right away. As soon as I hit go, it's ready to go. Now I'm going to adjust that to make it slow. That's pretty drastic. I also can adjust it so that it doesn't do it that drastic, but a little bit slower. There it goes. Probably the more popular one is the break, so being able to change the break speed. Slower. So that's almost on like a turntable, like turning the motor off, turning the power off, so the whole thing slows down and gives that effect. It's a good way of using a transition. Like if you wanted to go from one tempo to the next, you might use something like that to tempo transition. The other thing is I could actually affect the break so that it stops like a turntable. So a lot of turntablists like the fact that the turntable doesn't stop automatically, but that it kind of has a little bit of a drag to it, so I can adjust the break that way so that it kind of, you hear a little bit of the sound, and you can sort of play with it and get it to your liking so that you like it wherever it's set to. So this is our jog adjust, which adjusts the tension of the wheel. This actually affects how stiff the platter is. And this is on the CDJ 2000 and 2000 Nexus. So I can make it light or heavy. Light versus heavy. And I usually want it somewhere in between, but you'll see the difference and you'll definitely feel the difference when you do that. A couple of things I want to show you that are left here are the hot cues. Let's say I want a cue right there. I have to hit this button first, which is my record, so it's recording what I'm actually going to cue up. And then I'm going to select, let's select A, set it. Now I put it back and now you'll notice it's green. So when it's red, it's setting the cue point. Now when it's green, it's ready to go. You'll also notice on the screen, it's set up a marker and it's labeled at A. So now, so once I set this hot cue, that hot cue is set until I re-record it. So if I wanted to go back and change this out and not have that A hot cue, but have A cue something else, I could do that by, again, calling it up record, making them red, and setting a new point for A. The difference between these hot cues and this cue button is that this is a temporary cue. So I can set this whenever I want, but these would be my jump to cues. Probably the best way to use a CDJ and be able to use cues more effectively and be able to call back up cues is to make sure that the tracks are in Rekordbox. So what Rekordbox will do is it'll be your hub for organizing and sorting your music. That way you'll be able to set cues, set loops, and they will stay on those tracks. So whenever you pull up your songs, all of your cue points will be there and all of your loops will be there. It really unleashes the power of the CDJ. So I also want to show you this loop function. So if I hit this 4-beat loop button, this will create a 4-beat loop automatically. Now, if I hit it again, it'll cut it in half. And again, now it's a 1/4 beat loop, again, and then exit to get out of it. You can also manually set the in and the out if you wanted to. If I hit adjust, it'll bring up this screen here. Cool. So one of the last things that we should talk about in terms of the basics is this direction switch. If I'm playing, this is going forward. The way you normally hear something, I could reverse it. If you're wondering why it's not playing, make sure you just check that, because maybe it's gotten to the beginning of the song and it's reversed all the way back and it's still going in reverse. So that's actually more of a troubleshooting technique. So make sure you this is set on forward, not reverse. So these are some of the basic features behind a CDJ. So I think it's really important for every DJ to familiarize yourself with the CDJ. These are in countless nightclubs around the world, and you may walk into this situation and not know exactly what to do with it. I know that these things can get a little pricey, but you know, watching the video and at least getting familiar with it is a good way of starting. And then we do have places where you can actually practice on these, places like this, where you can actually practice on these and get more familiar. So definitely take advantage of that. That was the basics of CDJs. Come back for more. We're gonna have more videos. My name is DJ HApa. Familiarize yourself with these bad boys.